Welcome to Aircrew Interview. I'm Mike Young, your host, and this is our Tornado GR special with Dennis Brooks. Dennis has over 4,000 hours on the Tornado GR1, and in this interview he talks about his time on the TTTE, IX Squadron, flying in Saudi Arabia, and of course sharing some brilliant stories. Remember, you can help the channel to continue putting out regular quality content by becoming a patron via patreon.com/Aircrew Interview, where you receive 4 different tiers, each having its own benefits. So don't forget to click the subscribe button so you don't miss any future videos. I want to thank our sponsor, Club Coins UK, which we are very proud to be working with, as they are a veteran owned and run company where they produce stunning quality coins and patches that showcases the UK's military services. Their homage to the Tornado comes in the form of these quality coins that are available as singles or as sets, and they also produce this stunning Velcro patch that celebrates both the Tornado GR1 and GR4 in RAF service. You can check these products out and more at their website, which is clubcoinsuk.com. Thank you and enjoy. So Dennis, when did you first become interested in aviation?
When I was still at school, I joined the Air Training Corps, became an air cadet, and that sort of sparked the interest off from that time.
Yeah. So what year did you join the RAF?
In 1974.
Wow. And what were some of the basic aircraft you started your training on?
At that time, it was all through jet training on the Jet Provost. So it was the 2 marks of JP at the time, the JP3, JP4, that I did my basic training on.
Mm-hmm. And did you have a thought like what aircraft you wanted to eventually go on to?
Yes.
Was that a silly question?
Yeah, as you might imagine, the Lightning was pretty well much in mind. Yeah, so that was the aircraft obviously to aspire to at that time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you started flying the Hunter on your pre-Lightning course. Could you tell us what this was like to fly?
Yes. Just to go back a step, if I may, from initially after basic training, I flew the NAT advanced training.
Oh, yes.
And from there, rather than going straight onto an operational conversion unit, there was a scheme where some students went to Central Flying School, became instructors. So that was the course that I went, not through choice. It was not a bit of an imposition really, because you wanted to get onto the operational aircraft, but it did me no harm in the long run. So I ended up doing an instructional tour on the Jet Provost at Syerston, and it was from there that I went on to the Hunter to do the pre-Lightning course.
And was it as nice to fly as everyone says it was?
Yes, it was fantastic actually. Yeah, I really enjoyed the Hunter, and in fact I enjoyed the NAT very much as well. I mean, that was a lovely little aircraft to fly. Yeah. Yes, it was.
So do you think the Hunter prepared you well to go onto the Lightning?
Yes, I think it was a good stepping stone. Obviously going from the Jet Provost, then needed to speed up again before going to the Lightning. So yeah, the Hunter was very good from that point of view. Yeah.
So let's move on to the Lightning. So what were your initial thoughts of the mighty old girl? Well,
very imposing, impressive aircraft. I mean, just looking at the Lightning on the ground, you think, wow, you know, that's some beast. So yes, it's a bit awe-inspiring, really, and you know, certainly you think, well, that's good. If I can master this, then I'll be very, very happy.
Of course, yeah. Yeah, you probably have many, but can you share like maybe 1 or 2 memorable stories you've had, say, while flying the Lightning? Okay,
at Wattisham on Treble 1, the end of 1 month, we were flying a 3-ship formation, and we wanted to do the sort of Lightning party piece departure, where you keep the nose down, get about 250 knots, and then go into a steep climb. So we had 3 aircraft to do this. I was number 3, and we did it as a 3-second stream. Wow. Unfortunately, the number 2 raised his landing gear too soon and couldn't get enough clearance for the aircraft to get away from the ground. So the ventral tank hit the ground, ruptured. It got reheat in, so the fuel ignited, obviously. As number 3, I saw this developing ahead of me. I didn't know exactly what had happened, but I could see the plume of smoke and some flames ahead of me. So options were limited. So I just pressed on and with the takeoff, and apparently it looked fairly spectacular seeing me going through this cloud of smoke.
That story before.
Oh yeah.
Wow. Is there any footage of that anywhere?
I don't know. I don't think there's any video.
I don't think so,
It's no one would have been taking any at the time. Exactly. So yeah, that was one. Yeah, another one when we were on. This was on 56 Squadron. We were doing an armament practice camp at St Morgan in Cornwall to do air-to-air gunnery. And aircraft parked out in the open, and the lightning wasn't very good, if it was just out in the open. Anyway, I was on one banner, and I got an engine reheat caption. Reheat caption means there's a fire in the back of the aircraft. There's no extinguisher back there, it's only in the engine bay. So I had to go through the drill, and I think the warning went out. So anyway, went back. And later on in the same day, I took the same aircraft again. And this time, I was just opening first burst on the banner, and I got an engine fire warning.
Oh, no.
So I couldn't believe it. But, that fortunately turned out to be spurious, but at the time, you don't know it. You've got to go through the drill and take the aircraft back.
Yeah, so how long did you spend on Lightnings, and did you enjoy your time on it?
Well, first of all, I enjoyed it very much, yes, and it was 8 years, actually. So yeah, 4 tours, so 2 years for each tour. We moved around fairly frequently at that stage.
And how many hours did you get on the Lightning?
Just under 2,000. I was about 10, 12 short. So another couple of weeks, and I'd have cracked that.
But you can just say it's 2.
Yeah, but there we go. That's the way it is.
So can you tell us briefly what happened after your time on the Lightning?
Yeah, complete change actually. Well, my last tour on the Lightning was OC Lightning training flight at Binbrook, which was effectively the conversion unit for the remaining 2 squadrons, 5 and 11. So I had that, which was a great job, and I then got posted to become the CO at East Midlands University Air Squadron at RF Newton Grass Airfield there. So that was flying the Bulldog. So, well, what a complete contrast, between Lightning and Bulldog. But nevertheless, that was enjoyable. Towards the end of that time, I made a decision to become what's called, or what at that time was called, a specialist aircrew, which meant that I wanted to stay flying or in aviation associated jobs from then on, rather than trying to pill with getting maybe one more flying tour. So flying was the thing that decided that. And when I'd made that decision, I was posted to the Tornado.
Brilliant. So Dennis, as you mentioned before, you went on to the Tornado. Can you talk us through how you even started this process?
Well, it's a bit of a shot out of the blue that my poster just said, well, you posted to Tornadoes, which was obviously just coming into service at that stage. This was 1981. And I thought, well, that sounds pretty good to me. So I was happy with it. Obviously, I'd not done any air-to-ground before, but, the training process took care of that by sending me, well, obviously from the Bulldog, I needed to speed up again before going back to a fast jet. So the training process was then to go and do a course at then Brawdy, RF Brawdy in Wales, on the Hunter, to concentrate or to introduce me to the air-to-ground type scenario.
So what were your initial thoughts of the Tornado GR1?
Yeah, I was very impressed actually. I mean, who wouldn't be? It's, as you know, it's been a very successful aircraft, and yeah, even at that early stage, I thought, yeah, this is something else, and I was very happy to go onto the Tornado.
Well, I might be pushing your memory here a bit, but
yeah.
Could you talk to us a bit about your ground training and how you came from air to ground and learning the different systems?
Well, the air to ground was, as I say, done at Broady on the Hunter there. So that introduced more battle formation, air to ground gunnery, bombing, and so on. So that was the lead in there, and then onto the Tornado. The ground school, well, the Tornado, obviously, as I said, a new aircraft at that stage. So everybody was on a very steep learning curve. The initial guys went to course at the manufacturers in Manching in Germany, and they then started to teach the initial instructors at Cottesmore TTTE. We'll cover that, I think, in a moment. And from there it just escalated. So my first tour was as an instructor at Cottesmore on the Tornado there.
So obviously talking about your training, was there a sim at that time, or
yes.
is it more sophisticated than the Lightning?
Yes, it was. Yeah, much more sophisticated. There were various other procedure trainers as well, mainly for the backseat avionics, but we all covered those as a crew, the sort of crew concept, and the backseaters, the navigators, also learned the aircraft systems, because it's important, two-man crew, for everybody to be aware of what's going on in the other cockpit. So we started with those, and then went onto the simulator. Yeah, simulator much more capable than the early ones, the Lightning, for example. So yeah, you could get a lot of benefit out of flying the simulator there, and it was certainly a good lead-in to the aircraft. Since then, the simulators have developed even more, so much more sophisticated, with the modern ones now.
So when you started training and stuff, was there TFR on the aircraft at that time?
Yes. I can't remember offhand whether it was initially cleared. I can't recall. I think it was, but yes, we did introduce the TFR flying fairly early on in the time on the Tornado. People were very, or some were rather sceptical about letting it fly hands off close to the ground. And I think it was mainly ex-Jaguar pilots for whatever reason. But yeah, but for me it didn't cause me any concern. Yeah. Having flown with the auto TFR, I became very confident in it and its capabilities. There were some drawbacks, if you've got a very heavy shower cloud like a thunderstorm, or even less than that, the TFR would see that as ground returns and try and pull you up into it. So not great. So there were some things to be aware of, but over the ground itself it was fine. It worked very well. Yeah,
I think it came from the F-111, if I'm correct.
The 111 certainly had it, yes. Yeah. I don't know whether it was the same development or not, but yeah, certainly the F-111 had it before. Yeah.
So was your first flight in the front or the back?
Oh, in the front.
Not having the back.
No. We had obviously two variants, basically the trainer and the strike variant. So the strike variant didn't have a stick in the back, but the trainer did. So first flights were with an instructor pilot, so he could demonstrate and obviously take control if you screwed up in the front. Yeah. But no, first flights in the front, and it was only later, when I was becoming an instructor pilot there, that I go into the back seat and operate it from the back as well. Yeah.
So on the takeoff, was there a power difference from the Lightning? Because it seems a bit more sluggish than the Lightning was.
Yes, I mean, they're still a pretty powerful aircraft, but I think the acceleration was less than the Lightning would be. The Lightning just had a lot of raw thrust, basically. Tornado, yeah, certainly very good. I mean, with the reheats, yeah, plenty of thrust there. And with the clean aircraft that we had at Cottesmore, no stores on them, then it was a pretty good acceleration. Yeah.
So what kind of flying would you be doing during your training? Was it just basic handling, or would there be weapons involved? Okay.
Initially, basic handling. So obviously, takeoffs, landings, manoeuvring the aircraft, doing aerobatics in the aircraft as well, just to get used to the, you know, flying it not to the limits, but exploring the envelope, should we say. From then on, you'd also do more instrument flying, do an instrument rating, and after that, formation flying, and then moving on to the weaponry. Now, at Cottesmore, then there were no stores, so you couldn't actually drop any bombs. But the aircraft main computer had a mode where you could put a bogus bomb in there. So it made the main computer think it had a bomb on board. You actually had a retard or a free fall bomb, depending on what type of attack you wanted to do. So the main computer then generated the symbology in the head-up display with a moving marker, CCIP, continuously computed impact point, showing where the bomb would land if it was released at that time. Yeah. So you could do all of the weaponry or simulated weaponry without actually carrying any stores.
Oh wow! So what was it actually like to fly? Did it feel like a modern aircraft coming from the Lightning with all its new systems and things like that?
Yeah, it did. It felt more modern aircraft. It had a fly-by-wire system, whereas the Lightning, you know, hydraulic controls, but it was just straightforward controls, responded to your inputs. On the Tornado, you said what input you wanted, and then the fly-by-wire decided just what you'd get out of it. And that's even been developed even more in later aircraft now. But yes, certainly a very different aircraft to fly.
So we have to talk about the wing sweep, obviously one of its main features. How did you get used to that? Because I think it was manual we had, wasn't it?
Yes, it was. All the time that I flew the Tornado, it was manual sweep. So there were 3 cleared positions: the forward 45, and then 67. So the 25 was, you know, for takeoff, landing, low-speed manoeuvring, and so on. And in that configuration, you could also have manoeuvre flap and slat to give you better manoeuvrability control at low speed. 45 wing was the main wing that you use, you know, for low-level flying. Normally, the normal operating speed there was be 420 knots, and then if you wanted to go supersonic, then wings all the way back, either supersonic or, you know, showing off the lovely planform with the 67 wing.
Absolutely,
yeah, which was demonstrated pretty well with the recent fly around the country by the 2 remaining squadrons. So yes, yeah.
And I'm going to ask you this, because I've heard some pilots and aircrews say it can it go supersonic with stalls on, with its big tanks and the outer head?
It all depended on, effectively it became subsonic with all the stores on. It could go supersonic, but limits on the stores were in the main subsonic. I don't know about the later stores, because when I was flying them, we just had the dumb bombs at that stage, and the more sophisticated stuff came along later. And I don't know what the clearances were in terms of maximum speed and a Mach number on those.
And one of the big differences for you certainly would be working with a navigator. What was that like?
Oh, absolutely. No, I settled into that very well, actually. It's great to have workload shared, someone basically taking care of obviously the navigation, the ground mapping, radar, weapon selection, all that sort of thing. While I in the front, you know, just concentrate on flying the aircraft. So yeah, definitely a lower workload than single seat in the Lightning. Also, a bit more lightheartedly, someone to carry a bag or whatever when you go away somewhere. But no, I'm only joking there, obviously.
Yeah. You have to say that for the camera.
Yeah.
But obviously, you were heavily involved with the TTTE. Can you talk about your first tour with them?
Yes. Okay. Well, just to explain the setup at the TTTE. Obviously, it's an RAF base, so an RAF station commander, who is also the senior British officers. So we then had a senior German officer and a senior Italian officer to, to keep the hierarchy the same, more or less. We had a mix of aircraft, so roughly 40% RAF, 40% German, and 20% Italian. It reflected more or less the numbers of the aircraft each nation had bought, and instructors in roughly the same ratio. So aircraft on the line could be British, German, or Italian. There was a lot of commonality at that stage. Software was the same, so you could fly one aircraft and the software would respond in the same way with a different nationality aircraft. There were some other differences. The RAF aircraft had fuel in the fin, so a bit extra fuel there. Also had instrument landing system, which the Germans and Italians didn't have.
Okay.
Yeah, interesting.
So, ours might have been slightly better.
Well, I'm not saying better, just a bit different. That's all.
Yeah.
Just to explain, this is leaping forward now, but part of the reason the TTTE closed when it did in '99 was this was when the RAF, the GR4s were coming in, and each nation was going. The aircraft were becoming, or there was less commonality. So you wouldn't have been able to carry on with different software standards at that stage. You could do a basic aircraft conversion, but that would have been about all. Mm-hmm. Going back to my first tour, there were three what we called main course squadrons. One with a German boss, one with a Brit boss, and one with an Italian boss. They're deputies or senior navigators. So the German squadron had an RAF navigator. The British squadron had a Italian navigator, and the Italian squadron had a German senior navigator. So it's a good mix, basically. I was lucky in going to C Squadron, the Italian squadron. It was nice. It was perhaps a bit more laid back than the others. Still very professional, but a laid back approach to it, which was great. And in fact, I did 2 tours again later on, both times I was on C. I had a short time on A Squadron, the German squadron, but managed to move back to C. So I was happy with that. So going through, we tended to mix the crew. So myself as a Brit instructor would tend to get maybe either a German or Italian student. So we tried to sort of mix it around like that. So it was truly trinational. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, I think it was very successful. The whole project, really, the aircraft production and the training, I think it worked very well.
Make sure you go to clubcoinsuk.com to check out their wide variety of military coins that range from singles right up to limited edition signed sets.